There's one small problem with getting something everyone around you seems to want. If you ever realize that it's not for you, it's surprisingly hard to let it go and move towards what you've discovered you actually want instead. I've been incredibly fortunate to have hit the professional jackpot not once in my life, but twice. Straight out of college, I landed a dream software job at a high paying tech company in Silicon Valley when the software engineering industry was at its peak. I didn't hate the work or anything, but by 2019, I had realized that there was something else that I wanted more. I am quitting my software job and going to be a full time keyboard content creator. And I am both nervous and excited for what's to come. Then, with good timing and a bit of luck, I hit the jackpot a second time. During the worldwide COVID lockdowns, I found myself unexpectedly in the spotlight as the keyboard content creator at the perfect time when everyone was looking to improve their home office setups. Streaming regularly for a supportive audience, building custom keyboards for celebrities I used to watch growing up, and even getting recognized in public myself. It felt like the most amazing stroke of luck, and I felt like it would have been stupid to not take this once in a lifetime opportunity. For the past 5 years, I have been living the millennial dream of being an internet micro celebrity, and it has in many ways been the best period of my life. And yet, here I am today, ready to walk away from what many would consider a dream job one more time. Why and what does that look like? Let's talk about it. So one point of this video is to make a pretty big announcement for the future of this channel and my professional involvement in the hobby. Don't worry, I'm not leaving this channel and I'm actually looking forward to being able to deliver a major improvement in the quality and range of content here. But before we get into that, I also wanted to share a little bit of the reflections and thoughts I've had that led to these changes. I know this is a very privileged problem to have, but for the past couple of months, I've been feeling pretty burnt out on content creation. I even considered walking away entirely from being a keyboard content creator and pursuing other paths such as freelance photography, returning back to software, pretty much anything other than what I've been doing lately. I'm glad I didn't end up making that choice, but the fact that I got so close is why I want to talk about my experience, as the landscape of keyboard influencers is still fairly young and there's no handbook for how to become one. Many of us, especially I think people my age, struggle at some point or another with finding a career that is both fulfilling and creatively satisfying. It's not easy, and I know that for many, they may never find one. And there are hard trade offs to consider, and even thinking about making a change can be scary, especially when your livelihood is at stake. So, my hope is that by sharing my experience, it might offer some encouragement to those of you who are at a similar crossroads in your life or career, perhaps searching for the courage to take an unconventional path. And this is all connected to what the future of this channel looks like, so stick with me until the end. We live in a weird time. You've probably heard this statistic many times by now, but recent polls show that more than 54% of Gen Z and millennials aspire to be influencers. It's easy to see why so many are drawn to the influencer lifestyle. Even I wanted to see what it was like. The idea of turning a personal passion into a job, becoming your own boss with creative freedom, and the potential for public recognition and fame, rivaling even traditional celebrities nowadays, depending on your level of success. Many of these things were all things I experienced in my career, and while they weren't all ultimately for me, they were at the very least rewarding and worth experiencing. But for me, the true highlight, I think, has been the online community I found. I've said this many times on my streams in the past, but keyboard meetups eventually don't even become about keyboards after a certain point. It becomes more about meeting the friends you've made through the hobby, as cliche as it sounds. I've had the privilege of connecting with an incredible group of keyboard enthusiasts from all around the world. Just a couple months ago, I was invited to the Philippines and Spain to attend local meetups, which I never would have imagined. What began as a hobby has become the center of my adult life, and I'm genuinely grateful for the impact it's had on me. However, the reality of being a full time content creator who has to rely on an uncertain pipeline of sponsorships and ad revenue can be stressful, exhausting, and also surprisingly lonely. For one, the idea of creative freedom can honestly be a bit of an illusion, as I discovered that a combination of business pressures and platform driven incentives slowly pushed me to produce content that didn't necessarily align with what I wanted to make. And every day we're seeing a plethora of new people coming in, being interested, and very excited and passionate about owning a luxury keyboard. That was always the mission statement of Taeha Types when I started. From the beginning, there were always two big goals for the channel, and you can go back and see them mentioned in my 2019 announcement video. First, though not necessarily the most important, I wanted to focus on people and projects that were really pushing the creative and technical boundaries of keyboards. This was never about elitism, but more so about exploring the extremes of what's possible, turning an everyday object that I had thought to be boring, like all the keyboards I've tried in the past, and turning it into an object of obsession and artistry. This is what drew me into the hobby in the first place, and this is also why I never really branched out of high-end custom keyboards into the pre-built or more budget-friendly products. It's good to have something to reach for and dream about in life, and that is always the aspect of the keyboard hobby that appealed to me the most. And the spirit of this channel has always been focusing on the positive and celebrating the absolute best of what could be achieved at the very high end of our hobby. The second, maybe more important goal was to just spread awareness of the hobby through deep and insightful content. The idea was to create a place for super nerdy content about keyboards and just let the world know why so many of us are into this weird hobby. I wanted this to be a place where people could find detailed tutorials, reviews, technical mini documentaries on singular keyboard topics, and interviews with individuals who saw keyboards as more than just products, but as tools that inspire and elevate their lives. While I do feel like I was able to touch on all of these topics over the years, I often felt that I couldn't give them the time or attention that they deserve. And as a result, my content shifted towards what was most viable at the time: live streaming. Regular build streams on Twitch became my bread and butter because that's what I was good at. And while these streams definitely helped sustain the channel financially, they took a lot of my energy away from creating compelling, in-depth content that I really wanted to make here on YouTube. So I often ended up only making videos here to meet sponsored deadlines, which, while important for revenue, didn't really align with the vision that I had for this channel. I wasn't as focused on high quality original content, but rather on what would drive views and revenue. And this was the opposite of the personal creative freedom that I imagined I would have when I first transitioned into full-time content creation. And this isn't to blame any of my sponsors in any way. All my channel sponsors have been amazing to work with. This is more so the consequences of my early business decisions and what I chose to prioritize. But the truth is, in any business, you have to ultimately make things that people want and will pay for, whether it's with finances or time or some other consideration. There's always a balancing act to be made between freedom, happiness, financial security, and being an independent creator in an element of inherent uncertainty. I'll be turning 30 next year, which isn't that old in the grand scheme of things, but I feel that I've changed so much from the 23-year-old me that posted an unassuming "fail with holy pandas" typing test to the 30-year-old me now who has a family to take care of with just different life priorities. Lately, I've been wishing that I had a career that balances creativity with a little bit more stability, a role that allows me to scratch my creative itch without the uncertainties of being a content creator. Ideally, all without having to go back to the corporate world or returning to the cubicle. When I decided to do this full time, the long-term goal that I always envisioned was to eventually create some kind of keyboard brand for myself. I've experimented with designing and producing my own products over these years, but the reality was much more challenging and financially risky than I expected. I learned very quickly that just because I was good at making keyboard videos didn't necessarily translate to making good keyboard products. And while I do love being a part of the design process, I quickly realized that it was beyond my skill set to handle everything on my own. This is also why I have yet to put out a Taeha Types keyboard all these years. Many people have often asked me, how come there's no Taeha Types keyboard? It would sell out. And the truth is that I still have yet to come up with something that I'm truly proud of that lives up to my brand's name. And I didn't want to be another influencer trying to sell a white labeled product just to make a quick buck from their audience. And so for some time, I have been looking for a new way of being involved in the world of keyboards that could solve all of these problems all at once. I know it's a big ask, but I've learned that sometimes the best opportunities come when you least expect them. Through many long conversations and shared experiences, my good old keyboard friend Ryan Norbauer and I have often reflected on the challenges and frustrations of running a keyboard business, meeting up every few months for the past couple years now, enjoying our shared love of hipster coffee shops. I followed his work since the first round of the Norba Touch, giving him tips where I could, and have listened to many sagas of his struggles with suppliers and the pursuit of quality, all while he has always patiently listened through all the frustrations and creative blocks that I've experienced in my field. We've each come close to walking away from keyboards at different points multiple times, but somehow we always found our way back, and I can't help but feel like I've always felt that we've been walking parallel paths just in different areas of the keyboard industry, trying to figure out if there isn't some way that our individual creative desires in the world of keyboards can coexist with the realities of the market. I have known Ryan since 2017 when we both lived in Silicon Valley, back when the now massive NorCal keyboard meetups were small enough to fit around a coffee table at a local coffee shop. We both eventually landed in LA, and over the years, the keyboard landscape has definitely grown and changed dramatically. Trends have come and gone, and Ryan has stubbornly ignored almost all of them, doing what he wanted by his standards. Yet, despite all this, in a sense, Norbauer can be considered one of the oldest keyboard brands, not vendors, still operating in today's market, if you think about it. I still remember a long conversation he and I had at Stumptown Coffee in New York, the morning of KeyCon 2019, where he explained his philosophy on luxury as a way of enabling low volume manufacturing of artistically interesting and high quality products. That conversation has always resonated with me, and his belief in creating products for a dedicated group of enthusiasts rather than chasing mass market trends inspired me deeply. And subsequently, I've used the term luxury keyboards many times on this channel. He's been quietly executing his vision for Norbauer, and I've always admired the way he stayed true to his design language and philosophy. It has been incredible to watch Ryan execute on that vision over these years. He has built a passionate, concentrated fan base of collector enthusiasts, and I personally know some die-hard enthusiasts who proudly own a small fortune in Norbauer boards, many of them bespoke. His work has pushed the boundaries of keyboard design with products like the all-titanium aftermarket housings, custom injection molded switch plates of the Heavy Grail, radically new stabilizer mechanisms, and his new capacitive switch platform built from the ground up for the Seneca keyboard, a ready-to-type keyboard starting at $3,600, whose Edition Zero offering sold out nearly instantly. And he did all this by ignoring whatever everyone else was doing, embracing huge financial risks and technical extremes, and focusing on a tiny but passionate few, similar to what I had envisioned as an ideal for this channel. So when the opportunity arose, I approached Ryan with an idea. What if we combined our efforts to create something new in the keyboard world, considering the fact that we were always walking parallel-ish paths? And so here at last, we get to the point. I'm happy to report that today I've become an investor in Norbauer Co, and I'm joining the company full-time as head of content and client experience. Under this new arrangement, I've asked them to help me make this channel more like what I've always wanted it to be. And to be clear, I approached Ryan with the possibility of working together. I wanted to bring this channel under the umbrella of an organization that earns its living in a way other than maximizing clicks, views, and ad revenue, by catering to a positive and passionate few that share the same enthusiasm for keyboards as I do. This is about being whatever the opposite of keyboard clickbait is. I wasn't bought out by Norbauer, and I should point out that Ryan has also never been a sponsor of this channel, and any coverage of his work on my channel was always for free, just because I genuinely believe in it and always have liked what he's doing. Now, first off, I'm not disappearing from this channel. I'll still be here and you'll still see my face, but I'm going to take a bit of a step back, more so behind the camera, to focus on telling the stories of other enthusiasts and creators and just diving into keyboard topics. I want this channel to be more than just me, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this space now with several other awesome people who are already making great keyboard content, like Avi, Tofu Types, Apiary, and Mig Beauregard. Check their channels below, I'll have them linked down below, who are already working on videos I look forward to sharing here on this channel. I want this to be more of a collaborative effort. So if you're someone who's also interested in making thoughtful, long form content about keyboards, seriously, just message me. You can reach out to me at Taeha@Norbauer Co. We'll almost certainly be putting out videos less frequently. Not that my frequency has been great, but they'll be much more in line with my dreams for what I've always wanted this channel to be. And I do believe that the content will be even better as a result of me having now essentially gained a team that I can collaborate with. And as you might expect from working with Norbauer now, the content on this channel is going to be a little bit weirder and more nerdy, but in a good way. Instead of just covering the keyboard industry like most channels are currently doing, we're going to really dive deep into the community behind it. This includes talking more about vintage keyboards, to covering things that are neither new nor readily available for sale, and really deep diving into singular topics within keyboards. We also look forward to our exploration of keyboards and luxury in general. Ryan and I both believe that keyboards fit into a broader web of enthusiast cultures and that there are many overlaps, for example, with mechanical watch enthusiasts and collectors of vintage cameras and cars. He refers to this broad category of enthusiasms as commercial escapism, and I've been talking with him for years now about turning this into a series where we can chat with writers, thinkers, and experts from outside the hobby all about these ideas. So you can expect a ton of new and fresh voices to share their perspectives on this channel. But there is also a second part of my job title, and it's a pretty broad one: Head of Client Experience. And honestly, that's possibly the one that I'm more excited about, if only because it's a step into something completely new for me. I'm really looking forward to bringing my perspective on what the enthusiast keyboard community cares about into Norbauer's product line as I collaborate with a world-class team of engineers and industrial designers, which should give me just the right amount of involvement in keyboard design and production without really having to get too close to all the logistical headaches, which I'll be more than happy to leave in Ryan's hands. But I'll also happily be getting my hands a little bit dirty, working with Ryan to physically assemble and inspect all the Edition Zero units of the Seneca here in Los Angeles, for example. I'm also excited to be the primary person responsible for ensuring that clients have a good experience with us, which includes things as simple as getting updates through the manufacturing process, all the way to helping to ensure that the products are a pleasure to use and understand. Amongst other things, this means that if you email Norbauer Co for support or advice on what to buy, I may be the person answering. I am still a keyboard enthusiast like many of you watching, and I know what it's like to be frustrated with the current keyboard scene. So I'm looking forward to getting more personally connected to the Norbauer client base and ensuring that every step of the process of owning a luxury keyboard is taken care of. Honestly, Ryan and I have no idea whether this luxury keyboard thing is going to work out. But I think if any company in the world has a shot at making what we as a community decades from now will consider a kind of heritage brand in keyboards, I think Norbauer is it. And that's why I'm making the bet that I am today. In a sense, Ryan and I are now taking our last hurrah in keyboards together, hopefully for the long haul, doing things our way, inspired by brands like Teenage Engineering, Leica, and many others, companies that do their own thing and make crazy over-the-top products for a community of hardcore enthusiasts and somehow seem to manage to make all the financing stuff work out. If running a keyboard business can't be done this way, I think quite simply neither of us want to do it anymore. But to bring it all back to the personal things that I shared earlier on in this video. As someone who has veered off the traditional career path more than once, I can offer a couple bits of advice. Firstly, don't be afraid to ask for what you really want, because very occasionally, You can get what you want, but without you yourself knowing clearly what you want and how to ask for it, no one may know. Your dream job might not be on a company's career page, but if you're clear on what you want, don't be afraid to be creative and pitch it to someone. And honestly, that took me a while, and I didn't get it right on my first try. Norbauer and his colleagues were very willing to create a position that was specifically catered to my skills and desires, but it wasn't until we went through a few rounds of revisions and some personal introspection before I realized what that actually was. The result is the job that I've described, and it's not really a job description that Norbauer or any other company really would have ever thought to advertise as a single position, but it actually answers some very specific hiring needs that Norbauer had right now, along with being exactly what I wanted to do. It turns out to have been a happy overlap of needs and desires between us, but if I hadn't asked, I might have been embarking on a new career away from keyboards right now. Secondly, consider taking some risks on something outside the mainstream that you believe has potential. I've been very fortunate in how each of my career searchings have turned out so far, but whatever the outcome had been, I know I would have regretted not at least trying. You can always go back and do the less exciting thing if it doesn't work out. So here's to hoping this new path with Norbauer Co. will be my third strike of good fortune, one that lets us go deeper, get nerdier, and create something totally new in the world of keyboards. Thank you all for sticking with me and this channel for so long. And trust me, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming that I've been working on behind the scenes for the past couple months with Ryan, and I can't wait to share it all with you. Until next time, see ya, nerds.